Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Fuego here.
And we are here to do the third part of our Child's Play comics review, Chucky comics review. I say Child's Play because we are going to be reviewing the Child's Play comic book series from 1990, right? Or is it 91? 91, okay. Yeah. So yeah, this one actually takes place between the Child's Play 2 comic book adaptation and the Child's Play 3 comic book adaptation.
Which was coming out like right around the time the third film was going to come out. They even have an ad for the third film on the back of one of the issues. I can't remember which one.
Yes. Now, I do plan to review both the Child's Play 2 and Child's Play 3 comic book adaptations. That'll be part 4 of the Chucky Comics reviews. I've started the second one. I haven't received the third yet, but they're on the way. But I wanted to at least get this one done because I was excited to hear about this. And I want to give proper credit because the only reason I even know that these comics exist is because of the awesome channel Screaming Soup. If you guys haven't checked out Screaming Soup, you definitely need to. They posted on their social media because the Child's Play movie is coming up. They're like, hey, here's that time we reviewed the Chucky comics. And I was like, oh, they're going to review the Chucky comics from Devil's Due Publishing, which I have, which we've already reviewed on the channel.
The ones that Polito did.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I watched the review, and it starts off with these Chucky comics that I've never seen before, which is these Child's Play comics.
And you being a completist and a Child's Play enthusiast.
Had to do it.
Like,
had to get it. I was like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, Chucky comics that I don't know about? I must have them.
Where have I been?
I must have to them.
Where have they been?
So, yeah, I was super excited. And it turns out that while the Child's Play 2 comics and the Child's Play 3 comics do adapt those respective movies, the Child's Play comics actually are its own storyline that takes place after Part 2, but is really a sequel to the first movie.
In a lot of ways. I mean, and I guess it serves a little bit as a sequel to 2. I mean, I don't know. It's a true sequel to the first and the second film, right, in the fact that it brings back one character in particular from the first film. That
well, yeah, I mean, it picks up. Well, we'll get to the story, so let's do our overall thoughts.
Yeah, overall.
So my overall thoughts were the first 3 issues, just so you guys know, the first 3 issues are that sequel. Right, so it's a 5-issue series. The first 3 are the actual sequel to
really
Part
strong,
1 and 2.
Actually,
I thought so too. So it literally picks up right after Part 2 when he's been killed in the doll factory, and basically what happens is his soul just kind of goes into another doll as it's being made. They don't even really show it.
Kind of thing, yeah.
So he gets reassembled and he dresses himself and he takes off out of the factory from the second one. And the first thing that he does is decide to track down Karen Barkley from the first movie, the mom, because Andy is now off the grid. He doesn't know where he is. But not only Karen, but also Mike the cop and his partner.
Yep.
So it is a true sequel to the first movie happening after the second movie.
And we find out something interesting about Mike's partner, too, which is funny.
We'll get to that. And then the 4th and 5th issue, the 4th issue was just sort of a random Chucky versus a bunch of different dolls, so we'll get to that.
And yeah, was it a dream sequence or was it like actually happening? They left it vague
they did leave it vague enough.
Yeah, you can't really tell.
And then the 5th issue was essentially them completing a promise that they made to the fans in one of the early issues where you could enter a contest to become a character in the Child's Play comic and fight Chucky. So we'll get to that too.
And
but
guess what happened?
Yeah. So my overall thoughts were I really enjoyed the hell out of this series. It's not necessarily the highest quality series of all time.
Yeah, but it's
But as a massive Chucky fan, it's so cool to see new Chucky material that I've never seen before.
Yeah, for me, man, it was on par with the first 3 films as far as quality and tone.
Well, not on par, but it's higher than Bride and Seed for sure.
Okay, well, I mean, maybe I should rephrase and just say that it didn't blow me away or wow me or anything, but I was just like, okay, I mean, it's solid enough storytelling in the vein of the first few films, and to compare it to, the later work as far as, film and even comic-wise, I thought that this was a little bit stronger. I like this better than the Polito books for the sheer fact that it did take place within proper continuity and stuff, and so... and so, yeah, man, I mean, I enjoyed 2 and 3 especially. I enjoyed 1 is really just kind of a setup, and there's some stuff with like kind of the era metal / horror head kind of like kids and deals with a seance and stuff. That's just okay, and we'll get to that in the story. But yeah, I mean, overall impressions, I did especially like the artwork. I thought the artwork, and it was bloody. much more so than probably the films, in all honesty. A couple kills in particular.
Well, the first issue felt a little bit in the shadows, so we'll get to it. Sorry, continue. Yeah. Finish your overall thoughts.
Yeah, so good gore and a strong writing in the first 3 issues. It was really, even on the drive over, as I was talking about it, I was just like, yeah, it didn't really wow me that much. But that's more so because of the fact that I felt like with 4 and 5, it just kind of sputtered to a halt.
I think they knew they had to end it because they had to get to the Child's Play 3 book. Yeah. Because the Child's Play 3 movie, it came out so rapidly after the second movie that they just ran out of time.
Yeah, this was the era when like the Freddys and the Jasons were putting a movie out every year. Just like Saw, just like Paranormal Activity more recently.
So there's a close-up of the first issue. So let's get into the story of it, Fuego.
Let's do it.
So the first 3 issues, as we said, are this sequel. Again, the nice thing is this first page, which doesn't have to do anything with the rest of the comic.
It's really
It was just a fun fan page that I have to show. It's Chucky in the midst of a bunch of horror, icons. So there's the Shining axe, I will point out, the creature from the Black Lagoon's hand, Jason's mask. Who's this? I don't even know what that is. I can't quite tell. There is Halloween, there's the puzzle box, there's the phantasm ball, there's the chainsaw, the face hugger, the Freddy glove, the Phantom of the Opera mask, and just vampire teeth, just random vampire teeth. So
you have like pretty much every iconic property and just like neutral property represented. I can't figure out what that is.
It's like a bit of hair being sliced by a knife.
I don't know. If you know in the comments,
if you have any idea what that could be,
let us know.
Maybe Psycho? Maybe Psycho?
Possibly.
All right, so anyway, the episode starts off again with just Chucky back on the assembly line, and it's kind of funny because you see him without any clothes on, so he has to put some clothes on, but the Chucky doll just standing there naked is kind of funny.
He's like, well, at least I don't have to piss.
Honestly, the best thing about this is having been with Chucky since the 80s as fans. The voice is just so ingrained. I imagine we're thinking of Brad Dourif's voice the entire time,
delivering
right?
every single line.
Makes it so much better.
And especially with the way that they have like his like speech bubbles, like with the extra black emphasis around them and stuff. So everything is spoken more harshly and kind of Chucky-y.
Chucky-y. So he escapes the thing, and they don't shy away from him being a little bit adult. He's flipping off the camera, but he gets hit by a car. And so basically what happens is he decides to take revenge, but first he befriends, but he is taken in by this dude that is a big fan of the occult and evil things.
He
so
just kind of falls into the situation, obviously, but he's like, how can I work this to my advantage? And these kids come over, and they're essentially going to perform a seance and try to contact the voodoo dude who he kills in the first movie.
Right.
Yeah. Just to get some advice about how to, reappropriate and get himself into a new body if Andy's not around or whatever. And they do. There is a very cool little creature bit right here, or like demon bit, I guess you could say, because even the kids, as they're like about to help him conduct this, they're very weary of not just working with this living killer doll, but also what other forces they may incur by trying to open up this, otherworldly, speaking line.
So when they do this, it messes with the electricity, and all the lights go out, and Chucky is suddenly free to kind of do his thing.
Just like
so at that point,
Chucky.
at that point, it becomes a typical Chucky slasher movie where he starts taking people out. And what I started to say is a lot of the violence in this takes place kind of in the shadows, and this is a good example of it.
In the shadows,
so there is a gore to it, but it's not direct gore and stuff like that.
But you see aftermath with the one guy who was drinking his own blood.
Right.
Yeah. Because remember, when all those kids are hanging out, he like cuts his arm and then just starts drinking his own blood, and you're like, what?
The aftermath looks cool.
The aftermath is very brutal.
I don't want to show them because it's a bit of a spoiler, but there's another weird point where it's the only thing that actually makes it into the comic from that first page, but Chucky actually wields the Freddy claw at one point in this.
He does.
What is that about? It's kind of funny, but he does it. So, so that's the first issue, and at the very end of the issue, we see that there is this government man who has seeked out and is now going to try and work with Karen Barkley, who is basically in a who's being checked up by, the psychiatric, she's doing a psych eval.
And then in turn we find out that he is like this paranormal investigator, and he even makes like some Ghostbusters jabs at one particular point. And then he goes on to talk about
issue. So you guys
and then he goes
see.
on to talk about the fact that in Springwood, right? Or Spring.
They mention the fact that there's a dream killer in Springwood.
Yeah, and then he also mentions creatures.
Another funny first
creatures in lagoons. He mentions. I mean, it's a very self-aware like essence of storytelling, which I really appreciate. And is it a different artist from the first book to the second book? Because doesn't the style look just a little bit different? It does look
a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah, the second issue, we should give credit.
It's the same writer.
Yeah, Andy Mangels is the script, but the pencils in this issue are Rain Sremsky.
Yeah, it's the same writer.
Yeah, I just showed the credits, so they're all there. So basically what happens is this government employee, befriends and teams up with Karen Barkley to try and track down and take out Chucky.
He's positive Chucky is going to come to them, and Chucky does some funny stuff where he kills a homeless guy, and then he takes his little coat and his hat, and he gets
I thought it was supposed to be the homeless guy from the first movie.
Oh, maybe.
They never actually specified.
I just thought random homeless guy, but
But look, so they do actually get into the gore a little bit in this second issue. So, and here's what I love about it.
There's some moments here and there.
What I love is the fact that they can really show you Chucky's faces, and they're not limited to what the movie's special effects can show you.
Yeah, what the facial expressions and so on. You see just the pure mania and evil on his face. And this is where the government paranormal investigator guy goes, and he starts talking with Mike, and he's like, Chucky is free.
Mike, the cop from the first movie.
Played by Chris Sarandon. And
exactly.
He's like, we need to protect... Karen is her name, right? Karen Barkley. Yeah,
Karen Barkley.
As best as we can, because of the fact that we do find out in the second film that she's in an institution because everybody thinks she's crazy, and
some cool artwork. It's so classic comic booky, but I got a really good copy of these because my God, outside of the cover, which has smudges here. This is in a really good shape. It's like I picked it up off the shelf today. It's really cool.
And the art is giving me just such recollections of reading the detective comics and the Batman books from
it's
the
fun to see
early
Chucky
90s,
do his thing, man.
It feels very early 90s comic booky.
It does, but Chucky's doing his thing. I love it. I absolutely love it. When I read this, I was like, I just fell back into my Chucky loving state when I was a kid. When I first saw him, I was like, this is new Chucky material, and I'm loving
from that era when you saw these films as a kid, and he's pretty blood.
He punches a doctor.
He's bloodthirsty. He's crazy, and also another thing which Chucky is known for is killing and then trying to frame somebody to get the blame for it, which is kind of what goes down with, well, not kind of, it's what goes down with Karen here, just to specify.
See at the end here.
Yeah.
Karen is framed for the murders that Chucky's been doing. Not only that, but at the very end, he confronts Mike and lets loose a shot while his partner, the mustached guy from the movie, is right outside.
Yeah.
So,
leaves his boyfriend back at home and is just going about it. And
so moving on to the third issue, which has probably the best cover of all of the issues,
you'll probably
for sure.
See on the thumbnail, I'd
I'm sure.
It's just so iconic and awesome.
It's so cool.
I still remember when we were at
Mothers Against Rampant Kill Happy Evil Dolls.
Yeah, we were at Fan Fusion when you discovered these comics from that one vendor, if I recall correctly.
Another great first page. Yeah. Chucky, the biggest thing. He's the smallest thing in reality, but he's the biggest thing over these people's lives right now. Biggest thing in Chicago.
That's right. Give me one of them dogs.
So I can't show that, but yeah, the beginning of this issue definitely ramps up the events.
It does,
and it becomes crazy, and
it's really the end of this being a quality book in my estimation, because 4
this
and 5,
last issue,
4 and 5 just feel like afterthoughts. 4 is just a very strange fever dream of Chucky fighting these bastardized versions of
we'll get to
these
that in just a
second.
Yeah.
Properties. Yeah.
So we can't spoil too much of this. No, you're right. I mean, there's a big fight towards the end with Karen and Chucky and things like that. So it's definitely fun, and it's got
with the ad on the back for the new film. Whether it was about to come out or whether it had just come out.
Very back. Yeah. So they were advertising for Child's Play 3 because it was on its way. So that's where we ended up with this one.
This is essentially no different than what Dark Horse and various others have done, where they're like, okay, we're going to have a prequel to the upcoming film. We're going to have something that's going to bridge the gap between the two entries. And I honestly, we did a review similar with Predators, which did this same kind of approach. And Yeah, this is a weird entry, man. You've got everything from Ninja Turtles to Cabbage Patch Kids.
Yeah, this is literally Chucky versus other toys, which in and of itself is a cool idea.
No.
It isn't executed very well, especially considering, look, there's like a Freddy Bear.
Yeah.
Like Fred Fazbear before Fred Fazbear.
And
like well before.
Yeah,
but Raggedy Ann has a chainsaw, and then the Ninja Turtles, like you said.
Well, and then remember, they judge him at this one particular point for having inflicted harm on children and just been this, bad little toy and everything. And they have, like, actual narrative bits, like right there.
So he gets knocked out by this thing here, a storybook.
It is a dream, essentially.
And it's kind of a dream, and all these other toys, the strawberry shortcake and Teddy Ruxpin and the Ninja Turtles.
And yet
they all conspire against Chucky.
And yet it's not a one shot or anything like that. I mean, it is as far as
it's a one issue story.
It is, but the story starts after Karen has knocked him into the water.
Correct.
Yeah. So
he washes up on the shore,
and some kid finds him and takes him into the mall, and so
it gets hardcore.
He does eventually start really incurring the wrath of these. He kills a Cabbage Patch Kid or whatever. Because they have like different names for all of these characters.
They're off-brand
hits.
And then there's this big like Crisis on Infinite Earths big fight scene towards the end. It's really dope.
The Ninja Turtles, they're like mutant preteen something whatever's, and you're like,
everything's just slightly off brand.
Yeah, exactly, which is kind of funny.
So that's this issue. I mean, it's breezy and it's not very fulfilling. It's not a great story, but honestly, I love having the issue because it's Chucky versus other toys, and like when are we ever going to see that again?
Yeah,
like that's the sort of level I'm appreciating this on. Same with this issue, which most people would probably consider a garbage issue, and it even feels more breezy than the other ones. I was honestly
wondering if they did a different artist for this one too.
Oh yeah, I think they did. So yeah, this is Child's Play number 5, and this is basically just a fulfillment of a contest that they ran early in the series, where you could write in and say you're like Chucky's #1 fan, and the winner that they pulled would actually be written and drawn into this 5th issue fighting Chucky while he's at a Universal Studios knockoff. And you see that with the first thing here, because it's not Jaws, it's a giant swordfish instead. So hooray for Horrorwood is what this one's called. But yeah, this was basically, I mean, look, it's the Psycho house up there, you see. And so it's what if Chucky was loose on the lot of Universal Studios while a fan that won a contest is walking around Universal Studios. So this is the fan and his buddies over here. And Chucky is walking around, the crowd here. So
and he's like very early '90s burnout comic fan, stoner type, whatever. But I mean, he's endearing enough, and he's the one who
Kong send up. Like instead of Kong, it's this weird giant green creature.
So he's the one who notices that this good guy doll is moving around on its own, and he tries to tell his friends, and they don't believe him, and so
not afraid of the gore again.
He goes chasing after him, with it, and he's like, I love power tools or whatever.
And actually, this is a precursor to Cult, because he uses a long drill pretty plentifully in Cult.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I like the dragon like breathe in the fire and how we actually see what goes down very.
Oh, right here.
Yeah.
This part.
Yeah, because that's what is that part? No, it's a little bit later in the
issue. A little bit later. Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
It's what actually.
It's still pretty cool.
It's what actually happens with our lead
right
when
Got it.
Yeah, that's what goes down with our person who got to be in the book.
Yep. Yep, he gets a little bit torched, but it's
Chucky
fun.
with the half burnt off.
Yeah, and it becomes a Terminator comic.
Yeah, he does not look like your typical with the real flesh like appearance and everything. So.
Right. So it gets a little bit silly,
and
but
then he gets eaten by the swordfish. Like
I mean it's pretty fun. It's pretty aggressive, but then it leads right into the Child's Play 3 comic series, which we will. The next comic issue or the next comic episode that we review will be Child's Play 2 and 3, the adaptations, because I think those will be pretty quick since most of it was done in the movies. But that's the Child's Play 5-issue series from 1991.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it makes me wonder if it was ever collected in a trade or not.
No, I don't think it was.
Thanks.
So I'm really glad I tracked these down. Thank you to Screaming Soup for letting me know about these, amongst others. Unfortunately, it opened some floodgates, and I ended up getting a lot of innovation horror comics from back in the day after this. So.
Let's just say there were a lot that Cecil was unaware of that
Yes.
you will be seeing reviewed on the channel very soon.
And yes. So that's going to do it for our review of this comic book series. Why don't you guys let us know in the comments down below what you thought about this. Are you interested to read them now? I highly recommend you track them down. Honestly, tracking down all 5 issues probably going to run you about $50 or so. It's not terrible, but if you're a big Chucky fan, that's about $10 an issue. So
first 3 are worth it, though, I would say.
I think so. I think so. Well, you'll pay a slightly higher price for that because 4 and 5 aren't quite as expensive.
And it was the one that you said was the most expensive to track down.
Yeah, number 1 is definitely the most expensive. So let us know in the comments down below if you're interested in all of that. If you enjoyed the video, click that like button and subscribe if you want to see more like it. Again, I'll be reviewing the Child's Play 2 and Child's Play 3 adaptations in the next episode of this. But, you know, this is Chucky Week here on the Horror Show channel leading up to the Child's Play reboot. So thank you guys very much for watching. We greatly appreciate it. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias, Jaime Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.